This is the Devil's Guide to D&D. Devil's Delegate here, and this might be a little sloppy because I wanted to get this out in a hurry. See, the second One D&D playtest is out. That's the playtest material for the new version of D&D coming in 2024. And there's a lot here. Feats, rule shifts, magic lists, and a lot more. With the big thing being the new versions of bards, rangers, and rogues, now all grouped together under the label of experts, because they all have expertise. Today I'm going to look at the new bard, and as a bard fan, I'm not happy. I've said the bard is the best class in the game, or close to it. Apparently WotC heard that and said, we can fix that. There's some big changes to the bard. Some are nerfs, and ones that are going to make the bard significantly less fun to play. Some are buffs, though usually with a catch, and those will also make the bard less fun to play. So what'd they do? What's better, what's worse, and what's just different? Well, a quick glance at the beginning shows us that saving throws and skills are the same, but they've lost a bunch of weapons. Like that slick rapier or cool hand crossbow? Guess you'll have to hope that a subclass handles that. But let's get to the meat of things. Let's talk magic. One D&D has some big changes to magic, making it more consistent, which also decreases variety. Firstly, all casters are now prepared casters, so a bard can now swap out all their spells nightly, like a wizard. This is certainly a buff, though less than you'd think. For theme, for game flavor, I liked various classes having different restrictions based on how they gain magic. So I thought known spells were thematically a great idea, just not in execution. For the bard, I liked the Unearthed Arcana bardic versatility that let a bard swap a single spell out after a long rest. But okay, being able to prepare spells seems like a big improvement. Not in combat, where a bard already could take what was needed, but for out of combat, particularly for utility casting, being able to prepare spells instead of the combat ones when needed. Sounds good. Well, at first level, it certainly isn't good. At low levels, the new bard's casting is pretty sad. We don't yet know how this will work for other full casting classes, but for the bard, the number of spells the bard can prepare is determined by the prepared spells table, which matches the spell slot table. So at first level, you can only have 2 spells prepared. Just 2. Before you could have 4. So in theory, you have more versatility because you have access to all your first level spells. But in practice, you have far less versatility because at any moment, your choices are a whole lot smaller. For first and second levels, this sucks. At third, you catch up to where you were before, but you have to have 2 second level and 4 first level spells. Before, you could choose 5 or even 6 first level, but no longer. And yes, for a bard, there are levels where I'd rather have a few extra first level spells known over some additional higher ones. Well, too bad. And for 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th level spells, you never get to have more than 1 prepared. Now on a character, I have the 6th level Mass Suggestion and Otto's Irresistible Dance known, but I can't with this. I'd choose to know Force Cage and Mordenkainen's Magnificent Mansion, both 7th level, but no more. Yeah, I hate this. And the spell changes don't get better. They've also eliminated class spell lists. There's only Arcane, Divine, and Primal. No Wizard, no Sorcerer, no Cleric, and no Bard, meaning there are no Bard-specific spells. And again, I hate that. I've been calling for more spells for each class to emphasize that class's individuality, but nope. Instead, Vicious Mockery and Dissonant Whispers are no longer exclusive to bards. Okay, this bard uses the Arcane list, which, just think of it as the old wizard list plus bard and warlock spells. Before, bards had a mix of wizard, druid, and cleric, plus those few exclusive spells. No longer, at least until 11th level, but I'll get to that. They're also limited to the divination, enchantment, illusion, and transformation schools within the arcane list. That school restriction doesn't do that much, as that's where most of their old wizard spells came from. But stripping away druid and cleric spells sure does a lot. I never thought animal friendship or speak with animals were great choices for a bard, though I thought they were nice thematically. Hopefully you didn't want to play a more animal nature bard, because those spells are gone. Of course, the bigger deal is this takes away access to the healing spells. Now that clearly was a problem, so they fixed it by forcing a bunch of spells onto your bard. At second level, there's the new Song of Restoration feature, which gives you 5 spells over 10 levels. Spells you'd no longer have access to in the new system. Healing Word, Lesser Restoration, Mass Healing Word, Freedom of Movement, and Greater Restoration. Those are all always prepared and don't count against your number of prepared spells. This is kinda a buff. It's a buff that you've got more spells prepared. As a matter of being able to build your own character, it sucks. If you wanted to be a healer, great. But what if you didn't? Well, tough. You know healing spells even if you didn't want to, even if that isn't what you wanted in a bard. Where this does help is if you wanted to be a mediocre healer. It's more so if you wanted to be the sole party healer, as you can't take cure wounds, aid, mass cure wounds, or raise dead. Not without magical secrets, and we'll get to that later. The main takeaway from the new magic casting? Bards have a minor boost in utility casting and being a mediocre healer. Bards have a nerf in being a top flight healer and generally at low levels altogether. And the Bard's magic is now more restricted, allowing less variety in what you can make and play. Yeah, if I sound down, it's not going to get better. Let's look at one of my favorite features in the game and how they screwed it up. Bardic Inspiration. So, you still have Bardic Inspiration dice that you can use to buff a roll made by an ally. So far so good. And it still increases in size as it did before. First new thing is how many you get. Before you had Charisma mod dice. Now you have Proficiency mod dice. I guess this is for people who wanted to make a bard with a poor charisma? At 16th level or above, or for any of those low charisma bards, this is a buff. But for most bards, at most levels, this is a nerf which is really going to mangle your character. And why do they hate first level bards? That's not a level where bards excelled. Before, you could figure any well-built bard would have at least 3 inspirations at first level and a minimum of 4 at 4th. Now they have 2 at first. Don't get 3 until 5th and 4 until 9th. I'm really excited to play my first level bard with 2 prepared spells and 2 inspirations. Yeah, I won't use this bard. No. Okay, then they do give a few kind of buffs to inspiration. First, you no longer give out Bardic Inspiration by inspiring someone. Instead, it's now a reaction, so not a bonus action beforehand. This does make it so you are using inspirations when they're needed instead of on a person you think might need them. Of course, that strips away the whole idea of using your music or words to inspire someone, which was great for roleplay, and replaces it with just snapping your fingers. Seems more cleric than bard. Second, you can now use inspirations, again as a reaction, to heal. Thematically, again, this sucks, because if I'm gonna heal, why can't I do it slowly with a song instead of only as a reaction? Mechanically, it's so-so. Mostly this will be good at first level, so hey, something for our old poor starting bard. Bigger issue is, I didn't ask for something else to use up a limited resource. You want to give the bard a healing feature? Fine, then give it one. Don't trade it one. Now I can either use my inspirations to inspire, or snap now, or heal. The monk has resource problems. I don't want them on the bard. And that resource is so much more scarce now. You won't be healing much even if that's all you do with your inspirations. And wouldn't it have been better to stick this into a subclass? A healer bard subclass. That would have been nice. An option you could take if you wanted to be a healer, or not take. So okay, inspirations are now worse in theme and worse in number. It's a big net loss. So let's make it worse. Lots worse. Bards were always a bit shaky at low levels, but it all came together at 5th level. That's when they got fond of inspiration and could regain their inspirations on a short rest. Now they could start handing those things out and really excel. Not anymore. Now that happens at 7th. Ugh. On average, my 6th level bard could hand out 12 inspirations in a day. The new bard can do 3. 3, the defining feature of the class. One that makes it the most fun to play. And it's gutted. Is 5th level to 7th level that big of a change? Yes. Most games are played at low level. In a majority of campaigns, a player will spend almost no time with the class fully functional. It's not just that this bard is weaker, so much weaker, but that it's so much less fun to play. Why even bother with a bard if it can barely use inspirations? Stick to wizards or sorcerers. Okay, so our first level features and their higher level expansions are a big disappointment. So what else can go wrong? At 2nd level, we used to get Song of Rest, but that's gone. Replaced by those spells in Song of Restoration and the healing feature in Bardic Inspiration. Mechanically, that's fine. The new healing is better than the old, though I prefer the old for flavor. Either way, it's not a big deal. We also used to get Jack of all trades, but that's been moved to 5th. 5th. I use those half-trained skills most at low levels. But no, once again, the bard is screwed. 5th level is a long time to wait. Instead we get expertise. Moved forward, I would guess, because it's the defining feature of the expertise classes. Getting it sooner is good. It's a bit less fun than Jack of all trades, and if they just swapped expertise and Jack of all trades, that would have been fine. 3rd, the subclass, and I'll hold off for a moment on that. Fourth is a feat. That's the way One D&D works. Ability score improvements are now feats. So that doesn't actually change anything, just simplifies some wording. Fifth, we get the jack of all trades we should have gotten earlier. But wait, there's less. The new wording is ability checks you make to use a skill proficiency you lack. So no more adding jack of all trades to general ability checks. Not to initiative, not to counterspell checks, not to tools, so call it jack of some trades. Sixth used to give counter charm. It wasn't a very good feature, but I liked it thematically. But it's gone with nothing in its place. Well, for people who wanted it fixed, this is a kind of fix. At seventh, we now get the too late font of Bardic Inspiration. Before we got nothing. I will give them credit for adding the word Bardic to the name, since I like things that differentiate Bardic Inspirations from the other kind, which they call Heroic Inspirations in this playtest. With this font, additionally, if someone rolls a 1 with your die, the inspiration doesn't get used up, which will make it less disappointing, so that's good. Not good enough to move this font to 7th. Ignoring subclass features, the next thing of interest is Magical Secrets at 11th. First interesting element is this is 11th level. Before, Magical Secrets came at 10th. Oh great, another feature pushed back so that more players will never get to it. Obviously, with the shift in magic casting, this feature is going to change. A lot. It's not really Magical Secrets anymore, it's just access to more spells. Instead of choosing 2 spells from any class list in the game, you now choose 1 of the 3 spell lists. And now when you prepare spells, you can take up to 2 from that list. So this is stronger in that it gives you the entire list that you now have access to, so that's a lot more spells. It's weaker than before, as you can't choose from all spells, just one list. So if you wanted Revivify and Wall of Force, 2 likely choices in the past, you can't take them. I also noticed that Find Greater Steed is not listed in any of the lists, so I suspect that will be a Paladin feature, meaning no more Griffin riding for bards. With the limits on spell levels you can have prepared, this is actually bringing you less than you might think. For instance, you only have 1 6th level spell that you can have prepared. Ever. And you already have a good spell to fill that slot. So having access to more good spells of that level isn't that much of a help. Again, the main use here is for utility casting. It's also a plus for spells that have a long-term effect, like Find Familiar and Find Steed. Overall, if this is an upgrade or a downgrade will depend on what spells you wanted to get with it. For me, it's a bit of a downgrade. Getting it a level later hurts. The next significant feature is further Magical Secrets at 15th. It was 14th before, and here you just choose another list. There is not another Magical Secrets feature. Currently we have one at 18th, but you don't really need another. This opens up an entire second list. Again, the big limiting factor is that you can only prepare 1 spell of each level above 5th, so this is fine. If we didn't have the extreme limitations on the types of spells we could prepare, the new Magical Secrets feature would be a significant boost to power. But with that limitation, the old Bard, with its 3 Magical Secrets features, was significantly stronger. Then at 18th, there's Superior Bardic Inspiration, moved down from 20th, and replacing the 3rd Magical Secrets. This was always a poor feature, and they've gone a long way to making it worthwhile. The old one gave you 1 inspiration die at the start of combat if you had none. This lets you regain 2. So 2 is more than 1, and you no longer have to be completely out. So yeah, something clearly better than was before. Sure, at 18th. It was also moved to 18th because now all classes will get an epic boon at 20th, so the Bard gets one there. Epic boons are a topic for another time. The short, some are quite good. So again, a buff. Sure wish they could have shown the Bard this kind of love in its first 10 levels. And this brings me back to Bard subclasses, for which they've given us one, the College of Lore. And College of Lore fans, hold on to your hats. First, we've got to change to all Bard subclasses. There are now 4 subclass features, instead of 3, at 3rd, 6th, 10th, and 14th. The one at 10th is the new one. Since most of the Bard subclasses were giving multiple items in each feature, getting an extra one at 10th doesn't mean you're getting more, just that it's distributed differently. Without seeing more subclasses, I can't definitively judge it, but in general, I think it's a good idea. And the rule for old subclasses? They say to use them as they are, so if you choose something out of Tasha's, you just won't get anything at 10th. So how's the Lore Bard? A better question might be, where's the Lore Bard? You know how the Lore Bard's main feature, the one that everyone cared about, was getting extra magical secrets? Well, hell, no more. What made the Lore Bard so good was not only getting additional magical secrets, but getting them earlier. It's also what made them fun. Too bad. The new College of Lore Bard is less exciting. It starts mostly the same with 3 skills and cutting words, with minor restrictions, but close enough. Cutting words was always a good feature, though not the best because it used your inspirations as a resource. And now, since you have fewer of those, this is a weaker feature. Then at 6th, instead of additional magical secrets, the Lore Bard gets Cunning Inspiration, which allows someone to have advantage when rolling your Bardic Inspiration die. That's good. Makes them more reliable. But again, since you'll have fewer inspirations to give out, this will come up less than it would have with the old Bard. At the new subclass feature level of 10th, we get Improved Cutting Words. This adds some psychic damage to your use of cutting words. This is not much. The damage isn't significant at 14th plus level, and doing a little damage is probably not what you wanted to do to start with. At 14th, there's still Peerless Skill, which was good before, but not great because a high-level bard is really going to need help on ability checks. But sure, this is good. The new Lore Bard is just duller than the old, which is fitting as the whole Bard class is less exciting. Sticking this Lore Bard into my rankings of Bard subclasses, I'd put this 7th. Just above Whispers, which I'd rather play, and Swords, which at least has purpose in multiclassing. I suspect most people are not going to be happy with the new Lore Bard. And I hope they aren't happy with this new Bard. And if at first you think you are, hopefully I started to convince you that there's some problems here. Remember, these come with a survey, and maybe we can influence them a bit with that survey. So I'm hoping you fill out the survey for this to point out that maybe ripping magical secrets away from the Lore Bard wasn't a great idea. And more switching Bardic Inspirations to being proficiency-based instead of charisma-based is just bad. Or maybe just give more Bardic Inspirations. There's a lot more in this playtest material, but this is enough for now. I'd say sit back and have a drink, but no. No relaxing on this one. Start thinking about this Bard and if you really want it this way. As far as taking a drink, oh god yes, after this, I need a drink.